Zara looked out of her window, her big purple eyes fixed on the 3 moons that hung in the sky. She was not like other Zordians. While her friends spent their free time playing virtual games or practicing their shape-shifting skills, Zara had only one thing on her mind: humans. It all started when she was just a little blob, barely able to form her first tentacle. Her teacher had shown the class a picture of a human family. Zara was amazed. How could creatures with such rigid bodies move? Why did they have such tiny eyes? And most puzzling of all, why did the smaller humans look so much like the bigger ones? Now, at the ripe age of 200, still quite young for a Zordian, Zora's curiosity had grown into an obsession. She had read every book about humans in the great library of Zorbos. She had watched all the documentaries their scientists had made about Earth. But it wasn't enough. She wanted more. Zora floated over to her desk, her body rippling with excitement. She turned on her holo-computer and started reading her favorite Earth blog. Humans are weird but cool. Today's post was about something called dating. Humans have a complex mating ritual called dating, Zora read aloud, her voice bubbling with interest. They meet in pairs, consume food together, and engage in various activities to determine compatibility for reproduction. Zora's body turned a bright shade of pink, the Zorbian equivalent of a blush. Reproduction was a touchy subject on Zorbos. Zorbians simply split in 2 when they got too big. It was efficient, clean, and simple. But humans? Their method seemed so messy, so complicated, so intriguing. She read on, learning about things called kissing and holding hands. The more she read, the more confused and fascinated she became. How could touching face holes together or interlocking fingers be related to making new humans? It didn't make any sense, but Zara was determined to understand. As she read, a plan began to form in her mind. It was crazy, perhaps even dangerous, but she couldn't shake the idea. She, Zora of Zorbos, would go to Earth. She would learn about humans firsthand. She would experience this dating thing herself. But how? Intergalactic travel was strictly regulated, and even if she could get to Earth, how would she blend in? Zora looked down at her gelatinous, color-changing body. She was about as far from human-looking as one could get. Then she remembered something. In her advanced biology class, they had learned about DNA manipulation. With the right equipment, a skilled Zorbian could rearrange their molecular structure to mimic any life form. It was an advanced technique, usually reserved for scientific research. But who said learning about humans wasn't scientific research? Zara's body quivered with determination. She floated over to her closet and pulled out an old DNA manipulator her uncle had given her. It was an outdated model, but it would have to do. For the next few weeks, Zara spent every free moment practicing. She studied human anatomy, watched hours of human behavior videos, and tried again and again to shape her body into a human form. It was hard, painful work. Many times, she ended up as a puzzling mix of human and Zordian features, once even getting stuck with one human leg for a whole day. But Zara didn't give up. Her curiosity was stronger than her fear of failure. And finally, after countless attempts, she did it. She stood in front of her mirror, gazing at her human form with wonder. She had chosen to appear as a young woman with dark hair and olive skin. Her once purple eyes were now a deep brown. "Hello," she said, testing out her new vocal cords. "I am human. I would like to do some dating, please." Zara laughed at her own joke. The sound strange and delightful to her new ears. She was ready. Tomorrow, she would sneak aboard a research vessel headed for the Milky Way. She would find her way to Earth. And then, she would learn everything there was to know about humans and their fascinating ways of making more humans. As she lay in her resting pod that night, Zara couldn't sleep. Her mind was racing with questions. What would Earth smell like? Would she be able to eat human food? And most importantly, would she find someone to date her? Little did Zara know, her journey would lead her to discover much more than just human reproduction. It would teach her about love, friendship, and what it truly means to be human. Lessons that would change her life forever. Zara's heart raced as the stolen Zorbian spaceship entered Earth's atmosphere. She had managed to sneak aboard the research vessel and reprogram its course, but the journey had been far from smooth. Several times, she thought she'd be caught or crash into a star. But now, as she saw the blue and green planet growing larger in her view screen, all her fears melted away. "Computer, find a safe landing spot," Zara commanded, her newly formed human vocal cords still feeling strange in her throat. The ship's AI beeped in response and began scanning the planet's surface. After a few moments, it announced, "Suitable landing area located. Small town detected. Low population. Minimal risk of detection." Zara grinned. Perfect. She didn't want to land in a big city just yet. She needed time to adjust to her new form and learn more about human behavior before diving into crowded areas. As the ship descended, Zara looked at her reflection in the ship's shiny control panel. She still couldn't believe how different she looked. Gone was her purple, gelatinous body. In its place was a human form with olive skin, dark hair, and brown eyes. She had chosen this appearance after studying what humans called average features. She didn't want to stand out too much. With a soft thud, the ship landed in a clearing just outside the town. Zara took a deep breath, filling her new lungs with Earth's air for the first time. It smelled different from the artificial atmosphere on Zorbos. Fresher, somehow. "Okay, Zara," she said to herself. "You can do this. Just act natural. You've watched enough human videos. You know how they behave." She pressed a button, and the ship's door hissed open. Zara took her first wobbly steps onto Earth soil. The gravity felt slightly different, and it took her a moment to find her balance on her new legs. Looking around, Zara saw trees swaying in the breeze and heard birds chirping. In the distance, she could make out the outline of small buildings, the town the ship's computer had detected. Zara knew she couldn't leave her spaceship out in the open. She pressed a button on a small remote control she had brought with her. The ship shimmered and then seemed to disappear, becoming invisible to the human eye. Another press of the button, and it shrunk down to the size of a small pebble. Zara picked it up and put it in her pocket. Zorbian technology sure came in handy sometimes. With a deep breath, Zara started walking towards the town. As she got closer, she saw humans for the first time in real life. They were going about their day, walking dogs, riding bicycles, and talking to each other. Zara tried not to stare, but it was hard. Everything was so new and exciting. As she entered the town, Zara realized she had a problem. She had no Earth money, no place to stay, and no idea how to start her mission of learning about human reproduction. She needed a plan. Zara spotted a small building with a sign that said, "Library" on it. Perfect. If there was one thing Zara knew how to do, it was research. She could start there. Inside the library, Zara was amazed by the rows and rows of physical books. On Zorbos, all information was stored digitally. She ran her fingers along the spines of the books, enjoying the texture. "Can I help you?" a voice asked, making Zara jump. She turned to see an older human woman smiling at her. This was it, her first real interaction with a human. "Yes, please," Zara said, trying to remember all the polite phrases she had learned. "I am new in town. I would like to learn about jobs and places to live." The librarian's smile widened. "Oh, welcome to Millbrook. I'd be happy to help you. Let's start with the local newspaper. They always have job listings and apartments for rent." As the kind librarian helped her, Zara felt a wave of excitement. This was really happening. She was on Earth, talking to a real human, about to start her new life here. Little did Zara know, her adventure was just beginning. The quaint town of Millbrook held more surprises than she could ever imagine, and her quest to understand human reproduction would lead her down paths she never expected. As she left the library with a stack of newspapers and a head full of new information, Zara couldn't help but feel that she was exactly where she was meant to be. Earth, with all its mysteries and wonders, was now her home, and she couldn't wait to uncover all its secrets. A week had passed since Zora's arrival in Millbrook. She had managed to rent a small apartment above a bookstore, using some Earth money she had replicated with her advanced Zordian technology. She knew it wasn't exactly legal, but she promised herself to pay it back once she got a real job. Speaking of jobs, today was Zora's first day working at the local coffee shop. The daily grind. She had chosen this job because it seemed like a great way to meet and observe humans. Plus, the concept of drinking liquids for enjoyment was fascinating to her. As Zora tied on her apron, her hands shook slightly. She was nervous but excited. This would be her first real, prolonged interaction with humans. "Ready for your first day?" asked Maria, the shop owner. She was a kind, middle-aged woman with laugh lines around her eyes. Zora nodded enthusiastically. "Yes, I am very excited to serve hot bean water to humans. I mean, customers." Maria chuckled. "You're a funny one, Zora. Just remember, it's called coffee, not hot bean water." Now, let's start with how to use the espresso machine. The morning rush was a whirlwind of activity. Zora's head spun as she tried to remember the difference between a latte and a cappuccino, all while attempting to spell names correctly on cups. Despite a few mishaps, like almost using salt instead of sugar, she was starting to get the hang of it. As the rush died down, the bell above the door chimed. Zora looked up to see a young man walk in. He had messy brown hair and kind green eyes that crinkled when he smiled. "The usual, Alex," Maria called out. "You know it," the man replied cheerfully. Maria turned to Zora. "Why don't you take this one? Alex here is one of our regulars. He always orders a large black coffee." Zora nodded, her heart racing a little. This was her chance to have a real conversation with a human. "Hello, Alex," she said, trying to sound casual. "One large black coffee, correct?" Alex smiled at her. "That's right. You must be new here. I'm Alex." "I'm Zora. I just moved to Millbrook last week." "Oh, wow. How are you liking it so far?" As Zora prepared his coffee, she found herself opening up to Alex. There was something about his friendly demeanor that put her at ease. "It's very different from where I come from," she said truthfully. "Everything here is so interesting." Alex laughed. "I've lived here my whole life. Sometimes I forget how interesting it can be. Maybe you could show me Millbrook through your eyes sometime." Zora's heart skipped a beat. Was this what humans called making friends? "I would like that very much," she replied, handing him his coffee. Over the next few weeks, Zora and Alex's friendship grew. He would come to the coffee shop almost every day, and they would chat during Zora's breaks. Alex took her on tours of Millbrook, showing her the local park, the best pizza place, and even the small museum dedicated to the town's history. Zora soaked up every experience, asking questions that sometimes made Alex laugh. "Why do humans sit on grass for fun?" she once asked during a picnic, making Alex choke on his sandwich. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Zora often found herself confused by human customs and expressions. Once, when a customer said it was raining cats and dogs, Zora ran outside to see this incredible phenomenon, only to find regular water falling from the sky. Despite these small mishaps, Zora was loving her time on Earth. She was learning so much about humans, their culture, and their ways of interacting. But she still hadn't learned much about human reproduction, the very reason she had come to Earth in the first place. One evening, as she and Alex were walking through the park, Zora decided to broach the subject. "Alex," she said hesitantly, "can I ask you something personal?" Alex looked at her curiously. "Sure, Zora. What's on your mind?" Zora took a deep breath. "How do humans make more humans?" Alex's eyes widened, and his face turned a shade of red Zora had never seen before. "Oh, that's quite a question, Zora. Why do you want to know?" As Zara struggled to come up with an answer that wouldn't reveal her true identity, she realized that understanding human reproduction might be more complicated than she had initially thought. But with Alex as her friend, she felt ready to face any challenge this strange, wonderful planet could throw at her. Zara's question about human reproduction had left Alex flustered, but it had also sparked his curiosity about her. Over the next few weeks, he noticed more and more odd things about his new friend. One sunny afternoon, Alex decided to introduce Zara to the world of social media. They sat side by side on a park bench, heads bent over Alex's smartphone. "This is Instagram," Alex explained, showing her the app. "People share photos of their lives here." Zara's eyes widened as she scrolled through the feed. Why are there so many pictures of food? Do humans worship their meals? Alex chuckled. No, it's just a trend. People like to show off what they're eating. Fascinating, Zara murmured. She paused on a photo of a couple kissing. Is this part of the reproduction process? Alex's face turned red again. Not exactly. That's kissing. It's a way people show affection. Zara looked confused. But why connect face holes? Isn't that unsanitary? Alex couldn't help but laugh. When you put it that way, I guess it does sound weird. But it feels nice when you do it with someone you like. Zara nodded, trying to understand. She made a mental note to research this kissing thing later. As days passed, Zara's curiosity about human relationships grew. She decided to try a dating app, thinking it would be a good way to learn about human mating rituals. However, her literal interpretations of human idioms led to some awkward conversations. When one match said he was looking for his other half, Zara replied, "I'm sorry, but I don't know where your missing body parts are." Another time, when someone asked if she wanted to Netflix and chill, Zara enthusiastically agreed, thinking it meant watching documentaries about Earth culture while eating ice cream. Alex, noticing Zara's growing frustration with dating apps, decided to introduce her to romantic movies instead. They had a movie night at his apartment, watching classic rom-coms. As they watched The Notebook, Zara's face scrunched up in confusion. Why are they arguing so much if they're in love? And why is she leaving him for someone else? I thought humans mated for life. Alex paused the movie. Relationships are complicated, Zara. Sometimes people fight, even if they love each other. And not all relationships last forever. Zara frowned. That seems inefficient. I mean where I come from, things are much simpler. Alex raised an eyebrow. And where exactly is that, Zara? You've never really told me about your home. Zara felt a wave of panic. She had almost revealed too much. Oh, it's a small place. Very far from here. Not very interesting, she said quickly. Alex's suspicion grew. There was definitely something different about Zara, but he couldn't put his finger on it. The next day at the coffee shop, Zara was lost in thought about her conversation with Alex. She was so distracted that she accidentally poured hot coffee on a customer's hand instead of into their cup. "I'm so sorry," Zara exclaimed, mortified. Without thinking, she grabbed the customer's hand and started blowing on it, remembering a scene from a movie where a mother did this to her child's injury. The customer jerked their hand away, looking at Zara like she was crazy. "What are you doing?" I thought it would help," Zara stammered. Maria, witnessing the scene, quickly intervened. "Zara, why don't you take a break? I'll handle this." As Zara retreated to the back room, she could hear Maria apologizing to the customer, explaining that Zara was new in town and still adjusting. Zara slumped against the wall, feeling overwhelmed. Being human was so much harder than she had anticipated. There were so many unwritten rules, so many nuances she didn't understand. Just then, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Alex. "Hey, you okay? Maria told me what happened. Want to talk about it?" Zara smiled, feeling a warmth in her chest. Despite all the complications and misunderstandings, She had found a true friend in Alex. Maybe, with his help, she could navigate this complex world of human relationships after all. As she typed a reply to Alex, Zora realized that her mission had become about more than just understanding human reproduction. She was learning about human connection in all its messy, complicated, wonderful forms, and that, she thought, might be the most fascinating discovery of all. The summer fair had come to Millbrook, and Alex insisted on taking Zora. As they walked among the colorful booths and noisy rides, Zora's eyes sparkled with wonder. She had never seen anything like this on Zorbos. "Want to try some cotton candy?" Alex asked, pointing to a vendor selling fluffy pink clouds on sticks. Zora nodded eagerly, but when she took a bite, her eyes widened in shock. The candy seemed to disappear in her mouth. "Alex, the food is vanishing," she exclaimed, panicked. Alex laughed. "It's supposed to do that, Zora. It's just sugar. It melts in your mouth." Zora relaxed, but Alex's suspicion grew. How could someone be so amazed by cotton candy? As the day went on, Zora's strange behavior continued. She was fascinated by the Ferris wheel, calling it a gravity-defying rotation device. At the petting zoo, she tried to communicate with the goats by making odd bleating noises, insisting she was speaking their language. Finally, they reached the Hall of Mirrors. Zora stepped in front of one, and for a split second, her reflection flickered. Instead of her human form, Alex saw a glimpse of a purple, blob-like creature with tentacles. He rubbed his eyes, sure he was seeing things, but when he looked again, Zora was back to normal. "Zora," Alex said slowly, "I think we need to talk." They found a quiet spot away from the crowd. Alex took a deep breath. "Zora, I've noticed you've been acting different. There are so many things you don't understand about our world. And just now, in the mirror, I saw something. Who are you, really?" Zora's heart raced. She knew this moment would come eventually, but she wasn't prepared. She looked into Alex's eyes, seeing confusion and a hint of fear. She realized she couldn't lie to him anymore. "Alex," she said softly, "you're right. I'm not who you think I am. I'm not from here." "What do you mean, not from here? Are you some kind of foreign spy?" Zora shook her head. "No, Alex, I'm not from this planet. I'm an alien." Alex stared at her, waiting for the punchline. When it didn't come, he laughed nervously. "Come on, Zora. That's not funny." "I'm not joking, Alex. I came here to study humans, to understand how you reproduce." Alex's jaw dropped. "You're serious, aren't you?" Zora nodded. Then, making sure no one else was around, she let her human disguise slip away. Her skin turned purple and gelatinous, her body losing its rigid human shape. Alex stumbled backward, his eyes wide with shock. "Oh my God," he whispered. "Please don't be afraid," Zora said, her voice sounding more bubbly in her natural form. "I would never hurt you. You're my friend." Alex took a few deep breaths, trying to process what he was seeing. "This is impossible. But I'm looking right at you. You're really an alien." Zora nodded, then shifted back into her human form. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. I was afraid you wouldn't understand." Alex ran a hand through his hair, still in disbelief. "So all those questions about human behavior, about relationships and reproduction, you were seriously studying us?" "Yes," Zora admitted. "On my planet, we reproduce by splitting in two. I was fascinated by how complex human relationships and reproduction are. I wanted to understand." Alex shook his head, chuckling despite himself. "Well, that explains a lot. Like why you tried to upload your memories to a USB drive last week." Zora smiled hesitantly. "Are you okay with this, with what I am?" Alex was quiet for a moment. Then he looked at Zora, seeing not an alien, but the friend he'd grown to care for over the past months. "It's a lot to take in, Zora. But you're still you. You're still my friend, alien or not." Zora felt a wave of relief wash over her. "Thank you, Alex. But what do we do now? I don't want to leave Earth yet. There's still so much to learn." Alex thought for a moment. "Well, we can't tell anyone else. They might not understand. But I'll help you. We'll figure this out together." As they walked back to the fair, both lost in thought, Zora realized something. In her quest to understand human reproduction, she had discovered something far more valuable: true friendship. And as she looked at Alex, she felt a warmth in her chest that had nothing to do with her alien biology. Was this, perhaps, the beginning of what humans called love? In the weeks following Zora's revelation, she and Alex grew closer than ever. With her secret out in the open, Zora felt free to ask Alex all the questions she'd been holding back. And Alex, for his part, was fascinated by everything he learned about Zora's home planet, Zorbos. One sunny Saturday, they decided to have a picnic in the park. As they spread out their blanket under a large oak tree, Zora couldn't help but marvel at the simplicity of the act. "You know," she said, her eyes twinkling, "on Zorbos, we don't have picnics. The concept of sitting on the ground to eat is quite foreign to us." Alex laughed as he unpacked their sandwiches. "Well, I'm glad I could introduce you to this strange Earth custom. What do Zorgians do for fun?" Zora thought for a moment. "We have communal thought-sharing sessions. It's a bit like your movies, but we project our imaginations directly into each other's minds." Alex's eyes widened. "That sounds incredible. And a little scary, to be honest." As they ate, their conversation drifted to the topic of relationships. Zora had been particularly curious about this since her arrival on Earth. "Alex," she began hesitantly, "I've been observing human couples, and I still don't quite understand. Why do humans choose to be with just one person? On Zorbos, we form bonds with our entire community." Alex took a sip of his lemonade, considering how to explain. "Well, it's not always just one person. Some humans have multiple partners. But for many of us, there's something special about finding that one person who really understands you, who you want to share everything with." Zora nodded slowly. "I think I'm starting to understand. It's like you and me. We share things we don't share with anyone else." Alex felt his cheeks grow warm. "Yeah, exactly like that." They fell into a comfortable silence, both acutely aware of the growing connection between them. Zora found herself studying Alex's face, noticing the way the sunlight caught his eyes, the curve of his smile. She felt a flutter in her chest that her Zorbian biology couldn't explain. "Alex," she said softly, "I think I might be experiencing what humans call feelings." Alex's heart skipped a beat. He'd been grappling with his own emotions for weeks, unsure how to process his growing affection for someone from another planet. "What kind of feelings?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Warm ones," Zora replied. "Happy ones. When I'm with you, I feel complete. Is that strange?" Alex shook his head, a smile spreading across his face. "No, Zora, that's not strange at all. I feel the same way." Slowly, hesitantly, they leaned towards each other. Zora remembered all the movies she'd watched, all the couples she'd observed in the park. She knew what came next, but she was nervous. What if her alien physiology made it impossible? But as their lips met, all her worries melted away. The kiss was soft, sweet, and over far too quickly. When they pulled apart, both were blushing furiously. "So that's kissing," Zora said, a bit breathless. "I think I understand the appeal now." Alex laughed, feeling lightheaded and happier than he'd ever been. "Yeah, it's pretty great." As the afternoon wore on, they talked about everything and nothing. Zora shared stories of her childhood on Zorbos, of the shimmering crystal forests and the floating cities. Alex told her about his dreams of becoming a writer, of capturing the beauty and complexity of human emotions in words. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks, Zora looked at Alex with wonder in her eyes. You know, she said, I came to Earth to study human reproduction. But I think I've learned something far more important. What's that? Alex asked, squeezing her hand gently. I've learned about love, Zara replied. Real, human love. And I think I might be falling in love with you, Alex. Alex's heart soared. He leaned in and kissed her again, pouring all his emotions into the gesture. When they parted, he pressed his forehead against hers. I think I'm falling in love with you too, Zara. Alien and all. As they packed up their picnic, both felt as though they were floating. Zara realized that in her quest to understand human relationships, she had stumbled into the most profound one of all. And as they walked hand in hand out of the park, she knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. 6 months had passed since Zara's arrival on Earth, and her life had changed in ways she never could have imagined. As she stood on the balcony of her apartment, looking out at the twinkling lights of Millbrook, she reflected on her journey. The sound of the door opening broke her reverie. Alex walked in, carrying a bag of groceries. Hey, you ready for movie night? He called out. Zara smiled, her heart warming at the sight of him. Yes, just thinking about something. Alex set the groceries down and joined her on the balcony. Penny for your thoughts, he asked, wrapping an arm around her waist. Zara leaned into him, enjoying his warmth. I was just thinking about why I came here, about how much I've learned. And, Alex prompted gently. I came here to study human reproduction, Zara said, a hint of amusement in her voice. But I've learned so much more than that. I've learned about love, friendship, and what it really means to be human. Alex chuckled. Well, I hope we've at least cleared up the reproduction question too. Zora playfully swatted his arm. Yes, that too. Though I still think the whole process is rather messy. They both laughed, remembering the awkward but endearing conversations they'd had about human biology. As they settled on the couch to watch their movie, Zara felt a familiar buzz from her pocket. It was her Zorbian communication device. Her heart sank as she read the message. What is it? Alex asked, noticing her expression. Zara took a deep breath. It's from my home planet. They want me to come back. They say my research period is over. Alex felt a wave of panic. You're not leaving, are you? Zara looked into his eyes, seeing the fear and love reflected there. She made a decision in that moment. No, she said firmly. I'm not leaving. Earth is my home now. You are my home. Relief washed over Alex's face. He pulled her into a tight hug. I love you, Zora. Alien and all. I love you too, Alex, Zara whispered. But we have to figure out what to do. I can't just ignore my people. They spent the rest of the night talking, planning, dreaming. By the time the sun rose, they had a plan. A week later, Zara stood in front of a group of Millbrook's most influential citizens. With Alex by her side, she took a deep breath and began to speak. Ladies and gentlemen, she said, her voice steady despite her nerves, I have a confession to make. I am not from Earth. I come from a planet called Zorbos. There was a moment of stunned silence, then a flurry of questions and exclamations. Alex squeezed her hand supportively as Zora continued. I came here to study humans, but I've learned so much more than I ever expected. I've learned about the incredible capacity humans have for love, for acceptance, for growth. And now, I want to propose something that could change both our worlds. Over the next hour, Zara laid out her vision. A cultural exchange program between Earth and Zorbos. A chance for both species to learn from each other, to grow together. She spoke of the advancements Zorbian technology could bring to Earth and the richness of human culture that could benefit Zorbos. To her amazement, the idea was met with enthusiasm. There were concerns, of course, and details to be worked out. But the seed had been planted. As the meeting concluded, Alex pulled Zara aside. You were amazing, he said, his eyes shining with pride. But are you sure about this? It's going to change everything. Zara nodded, a smile playing on her lips. I'm sure. My journey started with a question about human reproduction, but it's led to something so much bigger. We have a chance to bring two worlds together, Alex, to create understanding where there was once only mystery. Alex grinned. Well, when you put it like that, how can I say no? Besides, he added with a wink, I've always wanted to visit outer space. Zara laughed, feeling the surge of love for this human who had accepted her so completely. As they walked out into the sunny Millbrook afternoon, hand in hand, Zara felt a sense of excitement for the future. She had come to Earth looking for answers about human reproduction. Instead, she had found love, acceptance, and a whole new purpose. As she looked at Alex, at the town she now called home, and thought of the adventures that lay ahead, Zara knew that her greatest discovery on Earth hadn't been about how humans reproduced, but about how they loved. And that, she realized, was the most beautiful discovery of all.